If help wasn't available, would you have what you needed to save your life? Hello friends, it's Jara with Wicked Prepared. Welcome to the channel to those of you who are new, and for our returning subscribers, welcome back. Thank you as always for joining us and checking out our videos. Today I'm sharing with you a crucial item that everyone should have in their supplies. This has been a complete game changer. There has never been anything like this available until recently. Most people, whether or not they consider themselves preppers, find it important to have a well-stocked medicine cabinet. The problem is, most of the medicines that people typically stock are basically just symptom relievers. They're not actually curing anything. They help us feel better while our body heals itself. That's our immune system, right? So things like cold and cough medicine, they might help you with your symptoms. But if those symptoms are due to, say, pneumonia, then NyQuil just isn't going to cut it. You need antibiotics. Imodium might help your diarrhea, but if the diarrhea is a symptom of Giardia, for example, you really need antibiotics. Antibiotics were a complete game changer for the entire human race, really. Back in the beginning of the 20th century, the leading causes of death were infectious diseases, and today, it's things like cancer and heart disease. What happened? The advent of antibiotics was responsible for people living longer, healthier lives. But what if antibiotics weren't available to us for whatever reason? We take for granted so many of the things we have, and I think lately we've really started to realize how easily that can all come crashing down. This is where having your own personal supply of emergency antibiotics could literally save your life. If you follow our hauls, you may have seen our Jase case that we added to our preps recently. Having a supply of antibiotics on hand in our preps had really been weighing on my mind a lot and had moved to the top of my priority list. Now, until recently, the only option for preppers or anyone who wanted a supply of antibiotics was to turn to fish or bird antibiotics from the pet store. So Jase saw a need and they fulfilled it. Now let me show you our case and what's inside. First of all, I love this case. I personally think it's really cute. But what's more important is that it keeps all of your antibiotics and the information about them all together in one place, protected. And there's plenty of room to add more. So inside here we have 5 antibiotics. Now, of course, I'm going to keep part of these covered because they do have my identifying information on them, but we've got azithromycin, doxycycline, amoxicillin, this is another doxycycline, metronidazole, and Cipro. And then, of course, we have the little booklet, the Emergency Antibiotic Guide, and this has contents by drug. It tells you like what the medicine is and what type of things it's used to treat. Amoxicillin used to treat bite wounds, animal or human, pneumonia, in combination with azithromycin or doxycycline, sinusitis, azithromycin used to treat pneumonia, UTIs, traveler's diarrhea, Cipro used to treat anthrax, plague, traveler's diarrhea, tularemia, which is bioterror. So this really gives you a lot of information about which medicine you would use for what type of affliction. Now, these antibiotics were specifically selected with a few things in mind. They tried to choose antibiotics that would be the most useful, the ones that would be broad spectrum, meaning they could be used to treat a wide variety of different ailments, as well as antibiotics that would be the safest ones for people to take, with the least risk of side effects. Now, we did personally pair this with this book, the Alton's Antibiotics book. I'm going to put a picture up here because I don't have it right in front of me. We got it from Amazon. It's basically a bigger and more in-depth book about antibiotic use. And it's really written just exactly for this type of situation when people might have to treat themselves because medical help isn't available. So this is our book for home use, for home reference. And the little book that comes with this set is going to stay with the antibiotics kit to be used anywhere that we have taken that kit. Now, we're personally pairing this with some other books on our prepper bookshelf, some medical books that are geared more towards diagnosis and things like that. I'll list a few down in the description, and then I'll do a more in-depth video once we've had time to review some of these books and decide which ones we think are the most useful. Now, I will say a must-have for every prepper is this book here, the Survival Medicine Handbook. This is also by Dr. Alton, who wrote the Alton's Antibiotics, but really you can never have enough resources for information. So some of the questions that we've gotten about our Jase case since we got it, people want to know if it's legal, safe, legit, things like that. And the answer to all that is yes, most definitely. This is completely legal. It's basically telemedicine, which really grew in popularity during the pandemic. Your information goes to real doctors who write a real prescription, which goes to a real pharmacy, which sends you your supply of antibiotics. Now, what's the process is another question that we've gotten. Basically, it was very quick, easy, and painless for me. It just involved a simple online questionnaire. They have a few basic questions. They want to know if you've been seen by your regular doctor within the last 2 years. They want to know if you have any allergies to medications, what type of other daily use medications that you take, that kind of thing. Then they custom make this pack for you. I also had to submit a photo of my ID. Now, for me, it was really that simple. I'm a pretty healthy person. I don't take any kind of daily medication, so I don't know if maybe you do have a little bit more complicated situation, if there might be a follow-up questionnaire or some other kind of consultation. But for me, that was all I needed. And after that, the medications came really very quickly right to my mailbox. Now, the case and booklet took a little bit longer to arrive because they come from different places. The medications obviously come directly from a pharmacy, an online pharmacy. But we received the medications very quickly, along with the basic information that you would get with any prescription. Now let's talk about expiration dates, because we have had some questions about that as well. Now, these bottles do say that they are to be used or discarded within 1 year, but really that is just because JASE has it set up so that each adult can get one set of antibiotics once per year. So they put that discard date on the bottle, but I found this info right on their website. How long can antibiotics be stored for? Most antibiotics will come with a manufacturer's expiration date between 2 and 3 years from the date of manufacture. To maximize the shelf life of your medications, they should be stored in airtight containers in a cool, dry environment. Under proper storage conditions, antibiotics expiration dates can be extended for a minimum of an additional 5 years. Studies have shown that when stored in a cool, dry environment, these types of medications retain greater than 90% of their potency after 20 years. Now, if you do some research, look up the Shelf Life Extension Program done by the Department of Defense. And the book by Dr. Alton, The Alton's Antibiotics, also has some really good information on expiration dates and shelf life of antibiotics. So basically, if you're careful about how you store these, meaning you want to store them in a pretty stable, like temperature and humidity environment, don't store them in your bathroom. That's a pretty common mistake that a lot of people make. You really shouldn't be storing any kind of medications in the bathroom where it gets hot and steamy a lot of the time. You want to store them out of direct sunlight, hence why they come in the nice little case that they give you to store them in. And if you're careful about how you store them, you will have these for quite a long time. And then if you want to build up more of a supply, you can go ahead and order another set in 1 year. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that you can rotate these. For example, say that you are able to access regular medical care and your regular doctor prescribes you an antibiotic for whatever reason. If it happens to be one of these antibiotics, which there's a good chance that it would be, you can use the antibiotics from your Jase case and replace them with the new antibiotics that were prescribed to you by the doctor. And that will help keep your supply rotated and fresh, just like you would with all the rest of your preps. Now, why might we need emergency antibiotics? Well, the first and most obvious situation that comes to mind is if traditional care were not available for whatever reason. A large-scale, long-term, grid-down SHTF situation, for example. And you're much more likely to need antibiotics in a situation like that when cleanliness and sanitation have gone out the window. The biggest cause of death after SHTF will be unclean drinking water. Just look at some of the diseases that can result from unclean water. Cholera, dysentery, giardia. What is the cure? Antibiotics. Grid down, SHTF, societal or economical collapse. It's really not that far off anymore to envision our country becoming like a third world country. There might be other situations, such as a mass casualty event in your area that could overwhelm the hospitals and medical system and leave care unavailable to you. It could be something as simple as a serious storm or a natural disaster that leaves roads impassable and communication lines down. Another reason people have emergency antibiotics is travel. If you're traveling outside the country and don't want to leave yourself at the mercy of a foreign healthcare system, or maybe you'll just be in a remote area of our own country, or even just to avoid having to visit a doctor, hospital, or clinic that's outside of your area. If you're traveling, even within the United States, and you're able to teleconference with your own doctor and say, hey, this is what's going on, and these are the medications that I have with me, and then they might be able to tell you what you can take. But also, think about shortages and supply chain issues. Those things have become impossible to ignore. Most of our antibiotics, and really many of our medications in general, come from overseas, especially antibiotics. Most companies in the United States have no interest in making antibiotics, really, because there's not big money in it, like there is with some of the other types of pharmaceuticals. So any type of supply chain disruption or sanctions imposed by other countries could mean the antibiotics you need might not be on the shelf when you need it. We've seen a lot in the last 2 years, and we're continuing to witness a downhill slide. The one thing we've all learned is that we can't wait until we see the need to prep for it, because by then it's too late. That's the whole idea of being prepared. And that's why I'm so glad that we found JASE Medical and that we're partnering with them and trying to get emergency antibiotics into everyone's home. I really do think this is one of the most vital items that you can have in your preps. I did talk with JASE Medical, and they were providing people with a backup supply of their other chronic medications, EpiPens and things like that. But because of the huge demand they were seeing, they really had to pause that a while and try to refigure the logistics of carrying that out efficiently. So last I heard, that was still in the works. But if there are any other medications that you rely on for your health every day, then definitely keep an eye on that, and hopefully they'll have that back up and running very soon. I don't take any medications regularly, but I would really like to have an EpiPen to keep in my trauma kit. Now, I will say I do like to have options to cover all the bases, so to speak, and I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to our preps. So we do prep more natural things as well, like herbals, colloidal silver, books, and resources on all of these things. And we're expanding our medicinal sort of holistic section of our garden this year as well. I think it's important to know and use natural remedies as well, and you don't want to be turning to antibiotics too frequently. And of course, at some point, your supply may run out no matter how much you prep. I just think it's smart not to rely 100% on either side, pharmaceutical or holistic remedies. A smart prepper will have both options. So I'm going to put some links down in the description box for JASE Medical and for any of the other things that I've talked about today, some of the books that we have. Make sure you check that out and let us know down in the comments if you have any questions, but also check out the JASE website, because they have a lot of info right there. And of course, thank you for being with us today. I hope you got something helpful out of this video. It's our mission to inspire and help everyone to become better prepared, because we really truly believe that that will make all of us better off. So if you feel the same way, make sure you hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up as well. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me a hospital emoji down in the comments. And if you can't do that, then just say hi. It means the world to us. We love reading your comments. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.